The Orlando Magic are still looking for that one thing they can rely on. They couldn't find it in London today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is January 18th. It will be eventually January 19th, 2026. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since the 2012 season. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic's inconsistencies return. We thought we were close to being done with them maybe after the win on Thursday, but the Orlando Magic lay a big fat egg, a Z, as I think they call it in England, as they fall to the Memphis Grizzlies 126-109. We will talk about what went wrong, the big problems this Magic team face, and how they can begin solving them. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. We truly appreciate you for being one of our Orlando Magic dailies, our everydayers who listen to us 5 days a week, on the weekends when we do weekend episodes after when games are on the weekend. Listen to us as part of your normal podcast rotation. Make us your first listen of the day. Make us part of being a member of our everydayer club. We want to thank you for making the Locked On Magic community one of the best. I think it's one of the best out there. And thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. At this juncture, we don't know what to expect from the Orlando Magic. Like we're 42 games into the season. We're more than halfway through the season. We've been experiencing this 6 weeks of, not essentially, 6 weeks of being a 500 basketball team. And if you've listened to me over the years and I say like, well, this is what 500 basketball teams do, is they win as much as they lose. You don't find consistency. So let's be real. The Orlando Magic have been a 500 basketball team for the last 6 weeks. Now we could say injuries are a part of that. We could say all these things are a part of that, but every time it feels like the Magic are about to take a step forward, every time it feels like they put the pieces together, we're finally turning the corner, they come out with games like they had Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening London time against the Memphis Grizzlies. They come out with efforts that don't look like the good efforts, that don't look like how we believe Orlando Magic basketball is supposed to be played. But in reality, this is kind of what it's been. Now, it rarely gets as bad as it got in Sunday's game. The Memphis Grizzlies led by as much as 33 in this game. You know, and I say this a million times, as many ways as I could say it. Losing a game by 30 points says more about the losing team than it does about the winning team. I will give the Magic their little bits of credit for fighting back, cutting that lead in half, getting it down to 15, eventually losing by 17 points. But that's putting lipstick on the pig. The Magic have a major problem. And we've been talking circles around it. We've probably been poking it. We probably identified it. It is about consistency. It is about what can you rely on every single night. Who are you as a team? That's what we're talking about right now with the Orlando Magic. And I don't want to belabor the point over and over and over and over again. I've been accused of all your episodes after these losses are the same. And my response generally has been yeah, because the problems are all the same. So let's phrase it this way. I say about the regular season a lot that it's about what you can do on your worst night. You're not a great three-point shooting team. So what do you do when you're not making threes? What do you do when elements of your game that you rely on don't work? Now, the bad teams have only one thing they can rely on. When the Magic were just starting this rebuild, it was their defense. And if the defense wasn't theirs, they had no hope. Slowly but surely, it was okay. They could do 2 or 3 things. And maybe this team at full health has 4 or 5 things they can do. Systematically, though, every single one of those failed in this game. And unlike the slow start when they trailed by 17 after the first quarter in Berlin, just like they trailed by 17 after the first quarter in this game, unlike that slow start, the Magic never found it again. Why did Orlando win the game on Thursday? It's because they had a 12-point defensive third quarter. They shut the Grizzlies down in the second half. The Anthony Black dunk that we're all still talking about, maybe we're not so much anymore, but that Anthony Black dunk only came because they knocked the ball away from Jaren Jackson and made a great defensive play that sparked that fast break. The Magic's formula to winning is not super complicated. It's get to the basket, score at the rim, get to the foul line. We're going to talk about the free throw problem in a minute. It's set up in the half court and use your defense to generate those fast breaks on offense. At the end of the day, everything we're dancing around here comes back to the same problem. The Orlando Magic's defense just isn't good enough. So much of what the Magic were betting on this year was that they would be an elite defense. The Magic's offense was not good. They did not shoot the ball well. That's normal. This team's been able to win games without shooting the ball well. This year and last year, especially last year. Last year, the Magic were the worst three-point shooting team this league's seen in more than a decade. This year, they're 29th, so they're not the worst, but they're still bad. But last year, they were able to survive how bad their shooting was. I was so tired of talking about the shooting. It was just like, yeah, they're going to have to make shots in the playoffs eventually. But this team can win without shooting because their defense is elite. It did not waver. It was the thing they could count on every single night. And that's not there anymore. After this game, the Magic are now 11th in the league in defensive rating, 113.4 points per 100. That's not after this game. That's before this game. Entering this game, 113.4. Over their last 15 games, so that's a long period now, almost a quarter of the season. Over the last 15 games, the Magic are 18th with a 115.6 defensive rating. Remember, they're 8-8 now in the last 16 games. They are a 500 team. They're not playing like it. Their stat profile would suggest they should be worse. So they are good enough to make up a bad stat profile. They're good enough to outperform their statistics. This is a good enough team. But none of it matters if they don't defend. And from the very start of this game, from the opening tip of this game, the Memphis Grizzlies were more aggressive. They were more assertive. They were more confident. They understood how to poke and prod this Magic team, and the Magic could not push them back. Maybe because they'd be called for fouls if they did. Magic committed 20 fouls. Memphis committed 18, so maybe that foul disparity isn't as big. We'll get to that in a minute. Maybe it was Ja Morant. Maybe the Magic put too much attention on Ja Morant. He had 24 points and 13 assists. He had 8 assists in the first quarter, set the tone for the game with his aggressiveness and his ability to get downhill because the Magic's defense isn't stopping anybody. And yeah, Memphis got some shooting luck. I'm not going to deny that. Grizzlies shot 13 for 35 from 3. They made 6 of 11, so they made almost half of their threes in that first quarter when they scored 40 points and led 40-23. Orlando was 10 for 25, 0 for 7 from 3 in the first quarter. Orlando got off to a slow offensive start. But again, what is the one thing that you can rely on? What is the one thing that will always be there? All the good teams have something that they can rely on. The Celtics are such a great three-point shooting team. They just overwhelm you with volume. So even if they're shooting poorly, they're going to execute well enough to get open shots. And eventually they're going to fall. They have the opposite problem in the Magic. They're going to make those eventually. The New York Knicks have so many offensive weapons. They could turn to Jalen Brunson and say, go get us a shot. The Grizzlies could turn to Ja Morant when he's healthy and say, go get us a shot. All the good teams have the thing that they can rely on when nothing else is working. Cavs are having a bad day. Donovan Mitchell, carry us. Wolves are down 25 to the Spurs. What do? Anthony Edwards, carry us. What do the Magic do when they're struggling? What do the Magic do when everything isn't working? And the reason why we are consistently and constantly having this conversation after another abysmal defensive performance, the Magic had a 123.5 defense rating. Again, Magic had only 8 games last year, giving up more than 120 points per 100 possessions. I'm pretty sure this is 12 or 13. We're only halfway through the season. The Magic aren't used to not being able to rely on their defense. And a lot of the assumptions that we want to make about this team rest on the Magic being an elite defensive team. Now, maybe this is just a victim of circumstance. Maybe this is just, okay, Anthony Black's adjusting to a larger offensive role. He's not as focused on his defense right now, doesn't have the energy for his defense. That's part of it. Some of it could certainly be you're missing Jalen Suggs, who's a key defensive component. Franz Wagner's still getting himself up to speed, so he's not fully revved up defensively. There are excuses. There are reasons. But none of that mattered last year. None of that mattered last year. And so if the Magic want to find consistency, if the Magic want to be the team that they think they can be, that we think they can be, that the league thinks they can be, if the Magic want to be that team in the second half of their season, they got to find their defense. Because slowly but surely, everything else just completely collapses. And that gets us to the free throw problem. Because I think you can explain a lot of the Magic's shortcomings by this seemingly inexplicable thing of not getting to the foul line right now. And why that is a huge problem for the team. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. You can open the FanDuel app during Happy Hour and find something new, boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's the perfect way to start your weekend and adds a little extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour. Every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That is NBA Happy Hour. Only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, whether it's your first listen or whether you're listening to us randomly during your day. We truly appreciate that. If you want to make Locked On Magic an even bigger part of your day, go check out the Locked On Everydayer Club. It's accessed an ad-free audio feed of Locked On Magic wherever you download podcasts. Plus, you get an invite to our members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for Locked On Magic listeners. We're still growing our community, but I'm providing my 3 thoughts after every quarter, except for Saturday's game against the Cavs. I'll explain that later in the week. But I'm dropping my 3 thoughts after every quarter in there and just generally there chatting and waiting for you all to ask me questions during games. Go to lockedonmagic.supercast.com. That's lockedonmagic.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. If the Orlando Magic have one element or one thing that has always been the one thing they've been good at on offense over the last few years since Paolo got here, it was their ability to get to the foul line. That is something that has been unassailable for this team. And it's the one thing that the Magic have come to rely on. What is the one thing you can rely on when everything else is hard? For the Magic, it was duck our head, get to the foul line, get some points from the free throw line. Orlando entered this game second in the league in free throw rate. Second in the league. They lead the league, I believe, in free throw attempts per game. That may have changed. But they're second in the league at 31.2%. That means they get 31 free throws for every 100 field goal attempts. You're getting to the line 30 times per game. You're doing something right. You're putting pressure on the rim. You're getting to the basket. You're getting downhill. You're forcing defenses into mistakes. You're forcing them to back off and be careful when they defend you. Now, this is a good little trick. Paolo is incredible getting the foul line. It's one of the best things it's one of the things he's always been good at. And frankly, one of the disappointing things about Paolo, or like one of the things that is a fair criticism of him, is to say, well, why aren't you making more of your free throws? Right? Why aren't you an 85% free throw shooter? Would completely change the perception of Paolo if he were an 85% free throw shooter instead of a 75, 76, 77, 78% free throw shooter. So very good, especially with the volume that he gets. To be sure, this is a key part of the Magic strategy. They are trying to get to the foul line. They are trying to get to the rim. And because they're such a poor shooting team, everything is about paint touches and downhill attacking. That's the one thing offensively the Magic should always be able to rely on. Like, fast breaks come and go with their ability to defend, and fast breaks tend to dry up during the playoffs. So too do free throws. And so that's why free throw shooting, especially with the trend around the league right now that officials are calling less free throws, having free throw shooting be a key part of your identity is important. It's not a bad thing, but it is something to be cautious about. It is something that can come back to bite them when it matters, and come back and be a very something that can hurt them. Because that's kind of what happened in this game against the Grizzlies. Now, look, Memphis got the line for 25 free throw attempts. It's not a great defense. The Magic's defense was terrible. I think we've established that. Magic did not defend very well. They gave up 52.7% shooting. They gave up more than 25 points in all four quarters, although it progressively got better. 40 in the first, 32 in the second, 28 in the third, 26 in the fourth. Orlando, after scoring only 23 points in the first quarter, scored 30, 28, 28. Offense was a problem. Magic didn't shoot great. 10 for 33 from three, 42 for 95 from the floor. They had 4 more field goal attempts than the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies only made 6 more. And in fact, the Grizzlies only made 2 more free throw attempts. Magic shot 15 for 16 from the foul line. But therein lies the problem. The Magic only got 16 free throw attempts. Now, 16, that equates to a 16.8% free throw rate. So when you're used to getting a line nearly double, like you're used to getting almost double, not double the amount of free throws, but double in relation to your field goal attempts, that's a major problem. Now, I'm not one to complain about officiating. Like, do I think these last 2 games were officiated particularly well? No. The Magic struggled to get to the foul line in both games. And in fact, this has continued a trend, and it's a league-wide trend, that teams are not getting to the foul line as much. But 31.2% includes Sunday's game as stats update as I'm recording this. Over the last 15 games, including Sunday's game, Orlando's down to 5th at 28.6% free throw rate. So the games where they don't get to the foul line are the strange ones. But you combine that with, so you're sitting there and you have a Magic team that is used to getting the foul line. They're used to attacking and getting foul calls. It is something they are accustomed to. And so you look at this box score, and this happened in the Philadelphia game a couple weeks back as well, where the Magic were driving, and you could see just Paolo frustrated he wasn't getting foul calls. Paolo took 1 free throw attempt in this game. You're telling me Paolo Banchero, a guy whose jumper is not reliable, and he passes on jumpers that he probably shouldn't be passing on. You're telling me that guy is only taking 1 free throw, has only earned 1 free throw attempt? Really? According to NBA.com, Paolo shot 6 for 15 in the paint, 4 for 9 in the restricted area. He took 20 attempts total. He was 7 for 20 from the floor. And I love seeing Paolo get shots. I think he's honestly been passing up too many shots. So I'm glad he took shots. And he's getting the majority of his shots where you want him to get his shots. You're telling me he only got fouled for 1 free throw attempt? That seems fishy. Franz Wagner, same deal. Franz Wagner shot 4 for 10 in the paint, 1 for 3 in the restricted area. You're telling me he only got 2 free throws in this game? Now, I'm not one to blame the refs. You got to adjust to the way the game is being called. But Orlando had the aggression that you're looking for. They outscored Memphis 60-58 in the paint. They were 30 for 55 in the paint. Memphis was 29-47. So again, Magic defense needs to be a lot better. I'm not sitting here saying otherwise. The Magic did not defend at the level they need to defend at. But the Magic also have come to rely on something they cannot control. And that is the point I want to make. The Magic's biggest problem is one of the things they rely on is for the refs to bail them out. And that's a coarse way to say what I'm trying to say. Because at the end of the day, the issue with Sunday's game is the Magic did not adjust to the game. They did not adjust to the way the officials were calling the game, and that happened a little bit on Thursday too, but they did not, and it's the same officiating crew from Thursday, by the way, which rarely happens. You don't have back-to-back same officiating crews. League tries to avoid that. In fact, I think the league tries to ensure that you don't see the same ref a whole bunch of times. Like they try to spread everyone out. And you don't see the same crew really until the playoffs. And even then, they'll mix the crews up. This is part of the inconsistency, though. This is like, honestly, like, as small as this may sound, this is the heart of the issue. The Magic are waiting for someone else to bail them out. And this is why I'm uncomfortable with how reliant the Magic are getting to the foul line. They're getting to the rim. They're getting the shots at the rim. They got to make more of those shots. They struggled with that a ton. In the first quarter, Orlando was 9 for 16 in the paint. 9 for 16. Solid, not great. That was truly about three-point shooting. In the first half, as Orlando fell behind, they were 17 for 35 in the paint. You look back at the losses the Magic have had, a lot of losses where they shoot worse than 50% in the paint. Because the Magic cannot rely on their three-point shooting, they must make shots at the rim, and they are not doing that nearly effectively enough. And the fouling issue is part of the same problem because the Magic are looking for foul calls that aren't there and not playing through contact, not playing to score, not playing for the whistle, which unless you're one of the foul baiters, which I don't think the Magic have foul baiters. I think they're physical. When they're not granted their physicality, that is what causes the Magic to collapse. And the Magic do not know how to adjust or have not been effective enough at adjusting to the level of physicality that they need on either end of the floor. And that's why the free throw shooting is a problem. It's not that they're missing free throws anymore. That was a problem earlier in the year. But getting to the line is essential. And when the Magic can't figure out how to get to the line, they get frustrated and everything else collapses with it because then they don't understand, well, how physical can we be? How physical can they be? And when they have to play hands off, when they have to play with a step back, that's also when they get in trouble. It is not a good sign. And let me repeat this. It is not a good sign that the Magic are watching the officials and figuring out how they need to play based on the officials. They need to just play their game. And if you play a game because they give up a lot of fouls, get back to being the team that they can't call everything. Now, you hope that they can call something because the Magic don't have a way to score if they're not getting to the foul line, if they're not putting that pressure on them, if they're not knocking teams back with their physicality. And if that's something we need to criticize Jamal Mosley for, that is absolutely something we need to criticize Jamal Mosley for. If that is a schematic flaw in this team, then absolutely. Let's lay the blame at the coach and say, we need new ideas to get open shots, to get easy shots, to get Paolo the ball in spots that he likes, so that he's not just driving wildly to the rim and hoping to get a whistle, because that's not going to work. But unfortunately, in this game, the reason why the lead ballooned to 30 points is because the Magic were missing shots at the rim. They weren't getting the fouls that maybe they thought they deserved. And regardless of whether they're arguing with refs or not, they let their heads drop. They were late getting back in transition. The floor is obviously unbalanced when you miss a shot at the rim like that. And they essentially became turnovers and fast breaks that helped Memphis grow and build this lead. That is the problem the Magic are sitting with right now, is they've got to find a way to be more effective when things aren't going the way they hope or the way they want. And that's where we're at with this team. Let's run through the box score then. We'll break down another reason why the Magic lost. Their stars just didn't play well. Sometimes it's not complicated, guys. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. During basketball season, there is nothing like being in the building. The energy, the crowd, that first big run that gets everyone on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost. That's where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets, fast, simple, and without the guesswork. If you traveled to overseas for these games, if you're just traveling looking to go to a game or an event, Game Time is your ticket. I use Game Time when I'm traveling, to be honest, more than I use it here in Orlando. I was in Atlanta with my dad a few years ago. We said, hey, let's go to the Braves game on a whim. I pulled out Game Time. We got tickets. The tickets were delivered to my phone pretty quickly. Any problems we had, Game Time solves very quickly. I've always been very happy with Game Time's customer service. We got to the game and had a great time over there at Truist Park. I'm getting ready to travel with college basketball season winding down in March. I'm getting ready to travel, and I actually have a road trip in mind where my Northwestern Wildcats are playing in the same city and the same day as the Orlando Magic. I'm planning to go to that game, and I've got my alerts set up to make sure I get my best seats to go watch my Wildcats play on the road while I am on the road. This is why Game Time is absolutely where you should go when you want tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets or really any tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off today. As we do after every game, and in some instances, ripping off the Band-Aid, let's go through the final box scores. The Orlando Magic fall to the Memphis Grizzlies 126-109. Again, so much of this game was like Thursday's game. Memphis just got off to such a hot shooting start. And look, some of it was the Magic's poor defense. I'm not going to absolve the Magic's defense. Some of it was shooting luck. The Magic, I think, did a really poor job containing Ja Morant. Ja Morant was the star of this game. 24 points, 7 for 13 shooting, 3 for 4 from 3, 7 for 9 from the foul line, 5 rebounds, 13 assists. He had 8 assists in the first quarter to set the tone, gave the Grizzlies a bunch of energy and kind of in the same way that the energy from the Berlin crowd lifted the Magic back into that game. Ja Morant's energy, and he's the biggest star in this game, whether you want to agree with that or not. Ja Morant was the biggest star in this game, was clear from introductions, like they know who he is. He lifted this team in a way that the Magic stars just couldn't. At the end of the day, this isn't a super complicated game. You need your stars to play well. You need your best players to play well. If they're going to take the most shots, if they're going to be on the ball a lot, they need to give you something. And look, Paolo did good things. I want to make this clear. I'm not going to do another bashing Paolo podcast. I don't want to do that because I generally think Paolo is trying to do the right things. Honestly, I thought he was trying to pass too much. I wanted him to shoot more. And he just got to a point where he's just I'm going to shoot as much as I can. I've got to lead my team back. And, I think the unfortunate thing that we're seeing is maybe Paolo, or maybe he just isn't there yet. Maybe this is just the wrong game. Just didn't click today. Paolo just hasn't been I'm going to take over this game and lead my team to victory. Like Anthony Edwards did Saturday night in San Antonio. Wolves are down 20 plus points. He goes on to score 47, and it's a close game at the end. They lose in the end, but that's that's the kind of player we're wanting Paolo to be. And I think Paolo can be that player, and he just hasn't been able to get over that hump. And that's an impossibly high bar. But guess what? You're a supermax player. He's not going to get the supermax, but you're a supermax player with the player option on your last year. That's the kind of player you have to be. Having said that, I don't think Paolo did anything wrong here. 16 points, 7 for 20 shooting, 1 for 4 from 3. Again, missed some threes. There was a really ugly 3-point miss in there. Only 1 for 1 from the foul line. He had 8 rebounds, 9 assists, 4 turnovers. The turnovers were a bigger issue than anything else, but otherwise, Paolo continues to play this really strong all-around game. He was trying to get to the basket. Again, most of his shots, I think it was 15 of his 20 shots were in the paint. And 9 of those 20 were at the rim or in the restricted area. So it's just about making shots. And yell at me all you want about this. And it matters more in the playoffs when the margins are smaller, but it's a make or miss league. You're either going to make shots or you're going to miss them. And the Magic shot 44.2%. 30.3% from three. I generally like their looks. I like their process on offense for the most part. I think as they got further and further behind, they tried a little too hard to push the pace, and they were rushing shots at the rim. And Paolo was guilty of this too. Desmond Bane was guilty of this. Franz Wagner was guilty of this. When I'm playing basketball, or like even when I'm playing 2K and I'm trying to catch up, I will try and play faster, and that's usually worse. Again, it all comes back to, is there a thing the Magic can trust? And the Magic think they can trust their transition game, and I'm not sure that's really what they should be trusting. So this is a moment where, yes, I think criticism of Jamal Mosley is warranted, that it's on him to tell his point guard, like, hey, run chin 5 and get Paolo Banchero a shot on the block. Get him the ball in the mid post. Like, they need, like, I've said this a million times. I generally like the idea of what Jamal Mosley's trying to run on offense, but they also need guardrails sometimes to say, like, hey, let's just run a set that we know is going to get us a good shot. Like, forget the read stuff. Just get me a set that gives the ball to Paolo Banchero in the low post, catching the ball on the move so we can make a quick decision and get us a basket. We just need to relieve the pressure a little bit. And if that doesn't work, then you flow into a pick and roll, or you flow into another action. Like, that is the element the Magic's offense is missing. And again, like, maybe that is a reason why the Magic need new voices and need new offensive ideas. And again, like, let me be clear about this too. The Magic are 16th in the league in offensive rating. They were 27th last year. Like, let's not, like, there are issues with this offense. I'm not sitting here telling you the offense is perfect and don't change it. Half-court offense has been terrible this year. And the Magic were bad offensively today too. A 109 offensive rating is going to get the job done. But there's still there are other things that Magic have to be worried about. And again, there's just things they need to do that they're not doing to make it easier for their stars in games where they're struggling like this. So not a great game for Paolo, but, like, again, not a disaster. I don't put this entirely on him, but you got to make shots, because you look at the Magic's other stars, shot making was a problem. Franz Wagner in his second game back played 25-56. So he's kind of settling in at the 25, 26-minute mark. 14 points, 5 for 13 shooting, 0 for 2 from 3, 4 for 4 from line, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Again, generally, this was just about making or missing shots. Franz was missing a bunch of shots, like, still getting his timing out. Like, I'm going to excuse Franz having a poor shooting game for a little bit. Like, he's still getting his legs under him. He's still getting his rhythm. Like, it's very clear that there's just still some steps he has to go through. So not losing sleep on that. Desmond Bane, 11 points, 4 for 12 shooting, 1 for 4 from 3. So the Magic still struggling to get him three-point looks, which is a fair criticism. Magic do need to hunt his three-point looks a little bit better, and that'll help him get into a rhythm if he's getting 5, 6, 7 threes per game. It's not good that Anthony Black takes more threes than Desmond Bane. Anthony Black was 2 for 6 from 3, and we'll get to Black's game here in a minute. Wendell Carter, really nice game. I'll get to him in a minute, 4 for 7 from 3. The Magic need, low 30s is probably the right amount of threes for the Magic generally, but Desmond Bane needs to be taking more than 5 threes a game. Yes, that is something the Magic need to be more intentional about. And that's another problem with the Magic's offense, is it's read-based, so the ball flows where it's going to flow, and that doesn't mean it's always going to go to your best shooters the way that you need them to. And again, that's all highlighted here, where the Magic just don't have something to rely on. But again, the 3 players you rely on most to create for your offense: Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Desmond Bane. 5 for 13, 7 for 24 for 12. That's not going to cut it. John Morant, 7 for 13. Jaren Jackson Jr. is 7 for 15. You're getting 21 points from Jock Lawndale off your bench with 9 for 11 shooting. And we'll get to that in a minute. You're just not getting the support that you need. It's hard to win when your best players don't play well against quality opponents. Maybe you could get away with that against the worst teams in the league. You're not getting away with that against a halfway decent team. And I know Memphis is under 500. They're 18-23 after this win. That's a roughly 500 team. Like, they're not bad. Like, I'm not losing sleep losing to the Grizzlies, especially with John Morant playing. But the Magic have to play better. Their best players have to play better. And I give a big thing that I've been kind of banging on for the last few weeks is you need your best players to set the tone. John Morant set the tone for his team. The Magic's leaders, they got frustrated, like, very clearly got frustrated, did not set the tone. And so that's something I'm going to continue to hammer, is your best players kind of set the tone and mood for your team. And look, Franz is coming back from injury. I'm not going to go crazy over anything he does quite yet. Let him get back into rhythm. Showed up when the Magic needed him on Thursday. this game was a little more hot and cold. Paolo, I think, generally was trying to do the right things, trying to be a good teammate, trying to move the ball. Took shots when they were there to take shots, like took some star shots that maybe he shouldn't have taken. But again, just trying to force the team back in the game. He just doesn't have the ability to carry the team in that way, or just didn't have it today. And, again, Desmond Bane he goes so up and down. And so again, like relying on him to be a second or third option and not having someone else fill in when he is playing poorly, that is part of the problem. So the Magic were led in scoring in this game by Anthony Black, 7 for 15 shooting, 2 for 6 from 3, 3 for 4 from the foul line, 6 assists, 4 turnovers. So an up and down game from Anthony Black. Again, like another guy who's just kind of inconsistent. Like, I don't think you want to rely on him to be your number one guy every night. Had to be the number one guy. Like, really, I think picked up his play in the second half at 8 points at halftime. So 7 points in the third quarter, like really helped the Magic kind of begin to climb into the game a little bit. But again, Orlando's just treading water because they can't get stops. Wendell Carter had a great game, I thought. 18 points, 6 for 11 shooting, 4 for 7 from 3, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks. I thought he was super active when he was matched up with Jaren Jackson Jr. I thought he did a good job pushing him off his spot. Like, look, Wendell's going to get out positioned a few times. He's a positional rebounder. He's a positional defender. He's not out there making crazy athletic plays. If you want to say that's a reason to that the Magic need to be hunting for another center, that's fine. I get that. I do think there might be a ceiling with that, but Wendell Carter is not the reason to complain about in this game. The Magic's bench was really rough. And so Orlando was down like 10 points, like right off the bat. And so I'm not going to absolve the starters. The starters are the ones with the minus 20s and minus 15s and minus 20s in their plus minus column. But this game really got out of hand because the bench just did not deliver. Tristan da Silva and Goga Bitadze were the worst pick and roll duo I have ever seen. They were giving up switches. And so you'd have Tristan da Silva guarding Jock Lawndale. And the Grizzlies did a really good job targeting that mismatch and just torturing Tristan da Silva in the paint. And that is probably schematic. Like I didn't blame effort. Like I thought the Magic's defensive effort, their shoulders drooped when they were missing shots in the second quarter. I didn't think, and again, Magic did not execute well defensively. Do not mix effort with execution. There's just details that this team is missing right now. And that's, again, part of this bigger issue of inconsistency where it's just like, well, what are you going to count on? You can't count on your defense because you're just not consistent with it right now. That's the problem. And so they need to, and this falls on coaching. And I'm a Mose supporter. I think the hubbub over Mosley is a little overblown. But yes, this falls on coaching. Mosley is not adjusting to the reality of his team. He is not adjusting to what this team needs in this moment. And right now, they need to change their defensive mechanics. Their defensive foundations just aren't good enough. So find a way to make this defense work. Just be functional. Because in that second quarter, as Memphis was building the lead up to 20, 25, 30 points, they were just targeting switches, targeting mismatches, and Orlando wasn't doubling. The effort was fine. Like, they were playing hard, not harder than Memphis, which is the problem, but they were playing hard, but they weren't executing their defensive principles well. They weren't guarding their yard. They were just giving away switches and giving up mismatches and betting that, Lawndale won't make this shot over Tristan da Silva again. He had 6 offensive rebounds for eight rebounds total. He had 21 points off the bench, 9 for 11 shooting. You needed to keep a big body on him. You needed to keep Goga in there. Like, this would have been the time to go to Jonathan Isaac, who didn't play until garbage time, which I got to question playing Jonathan Isaac with just 323 when 52 games guarantees his contract. The Magic need, for whatever Jonathan Isaac's going to take away offensively, you need Jonathan Isaac's defense and just have that big body and have someone who's confident defensively. Like Tristan da Silva he's a 3 that you play at the 4. And look, Noah Pendo wasn't much better. Noah Pendo was 1 for 4 for 5 points in this game, 2 rebounds. For as good as he was, he's feast or famine. He's a rookie. You expect that. Everyone's complaining about the Tyus Jones minutes. Tyus Jones only played 3 minutes. And yeah, they were probably a mistake. They ended up matched up with John Morant on several times. We all understand and acknowledge that if Tyus Jones is still on the team, but if Jamal Mosley plays Tyus Jones in the playoffs, those minutes are going to determine games and probably cost the Magic a game, maybe cost the Magic a series. Like, he's unplayable in the playoffs right now. With his poor shooting, with his poor defense, like Tyus Jones probably going to get traded just to get under the luxury tax. But his minutes, just 3 minutes, Magic were down -6 in those minutes, so it wasn't a complete disaster, but it wasn't as big of a disaster, but not good. Jace Richardson has continued to play well in the minutes you give him. He played 20 minutes, 11 points, 5 for 8 shooting. So if you want to give Mosley credit, he played them both. Tyus clearly didn't work. He didn't go back to Tyus. Like, he had a plan. Plan didn't work. It's the regular season. This is a time to experiment, time to try plans. Yeah, like I've told people this. Like, I don't like the Tyus Jace minutes together either, but statistically, the Magic play really well in those minutes. I get there's logic to them. I'm not gonna throw the guy out for doing something that there's a logical reason for. Now, we take everything at the end of the season and make some decisions, sure. But the Magic's bench just didn't deliver. And it hasn't delivered. Mo Wagner was a late scratch, certainly hurt. I think Mo improves a lot of things here. You tend to do a lot more drop coverage with Mo. Don't do as much switching, which I think would have helped this team. But yeah, just a lot of things went wrong. A lot of things went wrong. And unfortunately, like, I do sound like a broken record. Like, to those of you who are like, why are you talking about the same things every single episode? It's because, yeah, the problems are all the same. I can only reframe them a certain way and just tell you, like, hey, like, this is the issue. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, the Magic didn't make shots. I can live with a game where the Magic miss shots. Like, honestly, if it's a make or miss league and the Magic are getting quality looks and getting the looks you want, I can live with that. Because more often, like, regular season is process of results. If the process is good, you'll be fine. And like, again, like, the offense hits walls and stagnates. I don't think the process was bad offensively today. I really don't. The defense was the issue. And that's the thing we're supposed to rely on the most from this team. So you have your stars not making shots. Like, that's a problem. But it's making or missing shots. And you're getting shots at the rim. You're getting shots in the paint. You scored 60 points in the paint. You did that part well. And it's just about, okay, make some threes. I can live with that. What I can't live with, and what this team can't live with, and what has to change, is the Magic have to be more precise. The Magic have to be more in tune with their game plan. They have to execute their game plan so much better. And that's on defense, which is what this team is supposed to be about. And until that defense becomes consistent again, we're going to keep having games like this. And we're 42 games in the season. We've been, for 6 weeks, for 15, 16, 17, 18 games, more than almost a quarter of a season, we've been dealing with this inconsistency. We saw this bout of inconsistency early in the season. The 1-4 start, like, really put a pall on the rest of the season. But even though they fixed many of those issues did not go away. I will repeat that again, because I repeated this after the Washington loss. It bears repeating. Those issues do not go away. That is part of who you are. And you are spending your entire season covering that part up. So start covering it up. Start playing the way that you need to play. And again, maybe half these issues, or the majority of these issues, go away when Jalen Suggs comes back, whenever that is. But like the fouling issue, why are you counting on something that isn't in your control? This team, I'm not expecting this team to be as good defensively without Jalen Suggs. But this team can be so much better on defense. And once they get the defense straightened out, once they figure out how to play defense at the level that they set and the standard that they've set for themselves, which they are not meeting. And I think the team would be the first to tell you that they're not meeting it. And it's on them to meet that standard. Until they meet that standard more consistently, we're going to have frustrating nights like this more often. So let's get home. Let's take a few days. Let's take a breather here. We're going to take a deep breath here at the midpoint of the season. Get back to work on Wednesday. The Magic are flying back Monday. They'll be off Tuesday to reacclimate to life in Florida. Get back to work Wednesday. And then let's see what happens Thursday against the Charlotte Hornets in what feels like a must-win game. Like, every game feels like it's a must-win game, because the 2 games against Cleveland will feel like must-win games, especially if you don't win that first one. Like, win the first one, win the one at home, and then a split doesn't feel so bad. But take care of your business against the worst teams in the league. You can't lose a second game to Charlotte. And you're going to have some time now to recuperate, relax, figure yourself out, do some introspection. And let's finish this. Let's do well in this next stretch coming up. Or not. I don't know. It is what it is. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the ways to download podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest, you can also check us out on YouTube to search for Locked On Magic, as well as on Instagram to search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, whether you're doing the Patreon or doing our Everydayer Club to get access to ad-free audio plus our members-only Discord, thank you all for your support. For those of you on video, we're going to send you to the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen NBA game night on Locked On NBA. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We will begin to do our mid-season review. We are at a good stopping point. Take a couple breaths. We'll recap the first half of the season on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.